Good Lord, we're back. What's going on, everybody? This your boy Bleak, and welcome back to another installment of Scarecrow's Chamber. Today, I would like to step back into the gaming realm. And today, I would like to talk about a game that is impacting me from a very, very young age. Honestly, I probably shouldn't have been playing the game at this young age when it came out, but it is my favorite fighting game of all time. Is was a game when it first came out, released in the early 1990s. Had a lot of controversy around it because it was none other like any game that was being released in those days because of all of the violence and gore. And some of you may know what I'm talking about when I just said gore, but the game that I would like to talk about today, Mortal Kombat. Sorry, Mortal Kombat, a game that is still going strong, man. A game that is to me in a class by itself. I mean, it is none. It is not like any other game, any other fight game that I have ever played in my life. Partly because it's heavily gory, heavily gory. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Mortal Kombat, it was released in the arcades in '91, I believe, and it was a game that it was the brainchild of Mr. John Tobias, and also the guy who is actually still the leading director of the game today, Mr. Ed Boon. But I believe John Tobias was probably like the number one name, when the initial release. And the game was very unique to me because it was a fighting game that it used models of real people. And of course, Master Daniel Pacina, who was the Johnny Cage model, and also Scorpion model, Sub-Zero model, and so he was a model for a couple of characters actually. Hosung Pak, who was a model for Liu Kang, and I believe Master Pacina's brother Carlos, he was the Raiden model. So it was a very, very unique approach. But the crazy thing about it, obviously the budget for video games was incredibly low. But back in those days, people were still trying to get on their feet. So a lot of people didn't have money for the budget. So obviously to use graphic models, program models, it was a lot of money for that. And John Tobias and crew, they didn't have the money to do it. So what they did, John Tobias, I believe, was a good friend of Daniel Pacina, and he asked him to come aboard, and they just started, I believe John Tobias, he used his father's camera to capture all of these attacks, and it was very, very unique. You can actually see the footage of how they made everything. They would have the actors or the characters, if you will. You know, they would pretty much take pictures of each movement, each strike, every attack and stuff like that. All of the special attacks, the basic attacks, and they would take pictures of them punching, kicking, drop kicking, and the crazy thing, I always wanted to know, like, how did they capture the drop kicks, the jump moves, and what they did, they actually had the actors or the characters sit onto these, like, just these steps, these little step things, and they would sit down on them, and they would throw the kick, and they would pause and take the pictures of the kicks and stuff. It was very, very unique, very, very revolutionary. There was no other game that I know of at this time that was doing that. They used actual people to create it. It was a very, very unique approach, and it's very cool to actually see the footage. Obviously, this was in the early '90s. It wasn't the best quality, but it's still up to date. You can actually see it. How they came about it. And I believe Daniel Pacino, who played Johnny Cage, he was talking about how obviously a lot of people didn't really want to be on board with this because it was a game that was very, very different in terms of the violence and the gore and stuff like that. And I believe was it Midway? I believe they picked it up, and it hit the arcades, man, and it was a game changer, literally. And of course, when initial release, a lot of parents was coming at it. Like, see, in those days, people would coming after games, say, "Oh, this game is too violent. This game is not suitable for children," and stuff. And they probably, were right in a ways, because what they did back then, they always said that games correlated with violence. They said that, oh, if a game is violent, then kids are going to go out and commit violence, which turned out to not be true and stuff like that. So Mortal Kombat really it really held its ground, and it's still around today. And for those who are not familiar with the game, let me just lay out, what really stands out about the game and what made it unique and what made it very separate from other fighters. But Mortal Kombat, it had of course, throughout the years, and I think we're all the way up to what Mortal Kombat like 11 now, and I'm sure 12 maybe may come out in no time soon. But you had characters from different martial arts backgrounds. You had karate and kung fu and kickboxing and grappling. I mean, just jujitsu and all sorts of styles. But the funny thing about it, Mortal Kombat, I think the two films that really uh that really captured Mortal Kombat, the two main martial arts films, to me at least, was Enter the Dragon and Bloodsport. The reason why I say that, because the Liu Kang character, he, for those who don't know, obviously he is a character that was modeled after Bruce Lee. If you watch Bruce Lee films, Bruce Lee with the battle cries, all that stuff. Liu Kang is that type of character. He does all of that, stuff. So when you see Liu Kang, you automatically know who that character was supposed to be. He was a Bruce Lee character. And of also Johnny Cage. The funny thing about it, I believe Master Percenter, I believe he was talking about it before they, were trying to get up and running and stuff like that. I believe John Tobias actually called up and asked Jean-Claude Van Damme if he wanted to be in it. And Jean-Claude had turned it down. I don't know how true this is, but I honestly believe it, because when you look at the Johnny Cage character, the way he fights and the way he dresses, he is so similar to Jean-Claude Van Damme's character in Bloodsport. With the shorts and stuff like that, and the most unique move in Johnny Cage's arsenal was the split punch. He goes into the split and he strikes the groin. Jean-Claude actually did that move in the Bloodsport film. So those two characters, were based on characters from those popular films. And then of course you had Jiu-Jitsu type characters, probably the two most popular characters in the whole franchise, because these are characters that were in every game, and of course I'm talking about Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Scorpion was like a ninja spectre character. He was actually a Japanese man named Hanzo Asashi, and then when he was killed, and then he was able to be brought back to life through the sorcery of Quan Chi, and he became a ninja spectre and all that stuff. I don't want to go dive too deep in that, but Scorpion definitely, to me, and I can definitively say, he is the face of the franchise. And Ed Boon, who was the director of NetherRealms, that's actually his favorite character. So that's probably why. If you don't, for those who are Mortal Kombat fans, that's why you always see Scorpion on the covers and on the promotions and stuff, because that's Ed Boon's favorite character. So Scorpion definitely is the face of the franchise. And of course, Scorpion and Sub-Zero were from rival clans, and it's just so unique how Daniel presented how he and John Tobias, they were able to come up with the ideas for the characters. Scorpion, if you don't know, he is famous for that spirit move. Even if you're not a gamer, you probably heard of this phrase, "Get over here." I'm sure you heard it. If you're not a gamer, you probably don't know where it's from, but I'm sure you heard it at some point. Like, "Get over here." Back in the day when the game came out, all the kids in the school yelling out, "Get over here." So Scorpion is known for that. And Daniel Pacina, being a true martial arts legend and teacher and stuff like that, he actually had that spear weapon, and he actually used it, and he was the one that actually came up with this idea for Scorpion and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool, man. So shout out to Master Persona for that. And Sub-Zero, he was a rival to Scorpion. He was like an ice character and stuff like that. He used freezing attacks and stuff like that. pretty cool. But my favorite character, at least in the first game, was Kano. Kano was like this mob guy, just a stone cold killer, and his rival in the game was the female character in the first game. Her name was Sonya, and Kano was the head of the Black Dragon clan, which was just this bunch of thugs and stuff who would use weapons, and just pretty much they were just all about the money, man. They would kill and steal from whoever they wanted to just to get the money. But I've always liked Kano as a character, at least in the first one. But my favorite character, all of Mortal Kombat, Shang Tsung. He was my favorite character, man. I was just intrigued by him even when I saw him in the first game, because he wasn't a playable character in the first game. He was actually the final boss of the game. But I just thought he was just so unique, because when you fight him, he pretty much just morphs into all of the other characters. So for some reason at a young age, I just thought that was appealing. I'm like, this guy can just turn into everybody and just do anything he wants. He could just turn into everybody and just do all their moves and stuff. And I just thought that was unique. So when he became a playable character on the second game, I was like, I'm playing with this guy. And the second game is probably still my favorite one out of the franchise still to this day, because it just hit me differently. It resonates with me, and that was the one I spent a lot of time in, and that was the one that really set the tone for all of the Mortal Kombat to come for me personally. So I love the second one, and obviously the current one, 11, is great. But Shang Tsung, man, and then when the film came out, the very first film in the '90s, man, came out, man, that was monumental for me, man. Monumental for all gamers, really. And motion pictures that get turned into, motion pictures that come from video games aren't really, the best. But Mortal Kombat was the one gaming franchise that really did good for a film. They came out with two. They had the first one in Annihilation, but I like both of them. And I love, like I said, the first film, Cary Tagawa and Christopher Lambert, man, those two really made the first one. I just love the dynamic between both of them. And Cary Tagawa, just a great actor. All the other characters did great too. Lisa Soto, who played Katana, and Robin Shaw, who played Liu Kang, and Crispin Ashby, who played Johnny Cage, Bridget Wilson, who played Sonya. It was just a great film. I really loved it. And but let me get back to the game. The number one thing, for those who don't know, the number one thing about the Mortal Kombat games that really blew you away was these things called fatalities. And if you know the definition of a fatality, if you know fatality, is pretty self-explanatory what happens. But after the second round, when you defeat your opponent, you will hear Shao Kahn, who was pretty much the emperor of the game, who was like the boss of the second game, but he would always go, finish him, or her, finish her, or stuff like that. So basically, when he said that, it was time to put him away permanently. And the fatalities were just these devastating moves. They were basically just kill moves. That's what they were. And in the first game, like I said, every character has their own unique fatality. And that was really the number one primal thing that the game that people really took from the game. That was the number one thing that resonated with people, was the fatality moves. That was the moment you was always waiting for. Every time you defeated your opponent, you was always waiting for him to finish him, and then you just took him out. And that was probably the most. Ed Boon said himself, that was probably the funnest thing when they were making the Mortal Kombat games, was just to come up with the finishing moves and stuff like that. And that's when you can be really creative and stuff like that. And of course, throughout the years, with the graphics improving and the technology improving, the fatalities got even more devastating and even more, disgusting with the technology and stuff. But in the first game, Kano, his fatality was he would just snatch your heart out. Just snatch it out. And then you can actually see the heart beating in his hand and stuff like that. It was very cool. Possibly my favorite finishing move in the game was Sub-Zero's, where he would grab you by the throat and just rip your spine out. It was just a devastating thing. Scorpion, he would, because the crazy thing, Scorpion, he was a Ninja Spectre, so technically he was dead. But whenever he would take off his mask, he would always reveal this skull. He was just a skull whenever he took his mask off. He would take his mask off, and he would just reveal this skull head, and he would just burn the crap out of you. And for those who are familiar with the game, every time when Scorpion did his fatality, at least on the second game, you would hear one of the guys go "Toasty." So that was that was a big thing about the game. You know, and of course, Mortal Kombat had like sub boss characters, and a very unique a unique character that I want to talk about also was Goro, Prince Goro, Prince of the subterranean realm of Shokan. And Goro, he was of the Shokan race in the Mortal Kombat universe. The Shokan are this race of people who got like 4 arms, and that was the unique thing about Goro and stuff like that. And the funny thing about in the first game, the model that they used for him, because obviously they can't get a person who has 4 arms, right? So what they used a toy. They had like these action figures that came out when the game was released, and they used the Goro toy as the figure and stuff like that. And of course, Goro, when you fight him, he just beat the hell out of you. He wasn't easy to beat. But Goro was a very unique character just because of the 4 arms and stuff like that. And Lord Raiden, who was the Thunder God, he was the protector of the Earth Realm, because that was the big thing about the story of Mortal Kombat. It was Earth Realm against there was Raiden was a god. He was the protector of Earth Realm from the Outworld, because Outworld was ruled by Shao Kahn, because Shao Kahn was evil, demigod, emperor, whatever the hell you want to call him. He pretty much stole the throne really from Katana. Katana was a character in the game. Her father was once the ruler of Edenia, and Shao Kahn and his army came and killed her parents, but he kept Katana alive so he can claim the throne. So he kept her alive, and of course throughout the story, Katana is trying to rid herself from Shao Kahn and all that stuff, and of course Liu Kang, because the Mortal Kombat story was based on a tournament. Originally, it was based on a tournament, and Liu Kang, he defeated Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung was the evil sorcerer, and Liu Kang had defeated him and took him down. And then it goes into the second part of the story where Shao Kahn tries to invade Earth Realm and stuff like that. And so all of Earth's mightiest warriors, led by Lord Raiden, and they're fighting off all of the Outworlds, and it's just a very very cool story. Simple concept, but very very cool. And like I said, Mortal Kombat just has so many different characters over the years. I'm definitely not gonna be able to cover them all in 30 minutes. But another unique character was a character called Reptile, who looked like a ninjutsu type character, but he was actually a reptile. And of course, when you see him in the early games, he's kind of humanoid and stuff like that. But as the series progressed, and he started to take on more they started to design him with more of a lizard form. And then he had these acid attacks and stuff like that. Very cool character. And but another favorite character of mine was a character called Melina, and she pretty much was a creation by Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung used his sorcery, and he used also Katana's blood. He used Katana's DNA, and he also used blood from Baraka. Baraka was a Tarkatan of the Tarkatan race, and if you ever seen the Tarkatans, are pretty much this cannibal race, and they're known for having these huge sharp teeth and stuff like that. And the unique thing about the Baraka character, he had blades that he can just sheath out of his arms. So he was a very unique character too. But Shang Tsung, he used Katana's DNA and the DNA of a Tarkatan to create Melina. And the most unique thing about Melina is that she kind of was like she was a clone of Katana. But and like I said, because Katana, she was this graceful type of female ninjutsu type of character as well, and she always had her face covered with a mask and stuff like that. And Melina was the same way. And of course, Katana, when you see her out of mask, she's just this beautiful, character, stuff like that. Melina, whenever she would take that mask off, she would actually reveal those Tarkatan teeth. So that was the unique thing about Melina. She with the mask on, she was this beautiful, voluptuous type of character, boy. But she had that savage side, that Tarkatan blood in her that just made her an absolute monster. So her fatalities, man, she would take the mask off and she would just feast on your ass, just pretty much just cannibalize you. That was one of her fatalities. But she was always one of my favorite characters in the series, and she had a unique moves too. And she would fight with the Sais, the classic side weapons, same weapons that Raphael in the Ninja Turtle series would use. But yeah, I really love Melina. I've always liked her, and of course she wasn't in all the games, but she was always one of my favorites. And who else was a great character? Kung Lao. Kung Lao was also a very unique character as well. He was a guy who was actually Liu Kang's, good friend, and they both studied from the same Shaolin temple under Master Boraicho. And the unique thing about Kung Lao, he had this hat, but the hat had a blade around it, and then he would do all these unique attacks, and his fatalities, he would use the hat to cut you in half and stuff like that, decapitate you and stuff like that. So he was one of my favorites too. He was a very unique character as well too, and he had was a expert in Shaolin fist and stuff like that. And of course, Liu Kang had all his Bruce Lee type Jeet Kune Do strikes and stuff like that, with the mixture of the Shaolin Kung Fu and stuff like that. And one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games in the series was that I wish that they make another one. We haven't got one since the PS2 days, but it was called Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. That is one of the greatest Mortal Kombat games ever, and it's not even the typical Mortal Kombat fighting game style. The one-on-one type of concept. It was actually a beat 'em up. It was a 3D beat 'em up, and you played with Liu Kang and Kung Lao. And then, of course, you can unlock Scorpion Sub-Zero. But the story was pretty much around Liu Kang and Kung Lao and their journey, going through Earthrealm and trying to fight off Netherrealm and stuff like that. And they pretty much showed the journey of Kung Lao and Liu Kang that led up to the defeat of Shao Kahn in the second game. And it was just, I'm not going to get into it, but it was just a fun game. If you haven't tried it and you don't mind taking it back, playing older games, I highly recommend that one, man. Like me and a buddy of mine, we played it all the time. I mean, it's nice. It wasn't the typical Mortal Kombat, fighting game, but it's still one of the greatest ones ever made. Because I love beat 'em ups. Just like I said in my Streets of Rage video, I love beat 'em ups, and that was like a beat 'em up with blood and guts. Blood, guts, ass, and feet flying everywhere, blood everywhere. So I've always liked games that have a lot of gore because it's realistic to me. You shoot somebody and they bleed. I mean, it's just a realistic feel, even though it was over the top, but I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But it's nice to see a gaming franchise that hasn't really been taken advantage of. It hasn't really been devalued, because there are some gaming franchises out there. They are they're strong in 1 minute, and then for some reason the creators decided to go another route. It wasn't too many games throughout the gaming history that done that. Mortal Kombat was always a solid game for me, man. It was always solid. And like I said, just so many characters. I would wish I can cover all of them, but I can't do it because my time is coming up. But I would like to talk about another character who was a character that was one of my friend's favorites. It was a character called Kenshi, excuse me. And he was a character who was like, a martial artist, but he was tricked by Shang Tsung into open up this seal, and it impaired his sight. So he became a blind guy, and he was able to use telekinetic abilities because he was a blind character. So later, blind swordsman type, Zatoichi type character, but he used telekinetic abilities and stuff. And he was a very unique character too. In his fatalities, he would use his mind. He would use his telekinetic abilities and stuff like that. He was very, very unique too. I really liked him a lot. Cool character, very, very cool character. Oh man, just so many characters. Queen Sindel. She was that's the same. Mortal Kombat has so many unique characters, and they have characters that are very, very that stick out, that are known for something. They're very unique to how they fight and what they use and stuff like that. And Queen Sindel was another one. She was just like this. She was actually, I believe, Katana's mother. Well, at least that's what they said in the films. I don't know if it was true in the game, and I think it was. It was. But she was a character who, was driven to kill herself by Shao Kahn, and then Shao Kahn had her brought back under this spell of being, the wife of Shao Kahn and stuff like that. And she was this character, very unique. She like a scream queen. She would use her voice as a weapon. And she also had this long white hair that she would use for her attacks and stuff like that. So she was a very unique character as well. And Sonya Blade, I mean, Jax, two tactical type characters from the special forces and stuff like that. Very CQC type of stuff. Jax was he was the brother. He was the brother of the game. He was first appeared in the second game. Straight powerhouse, man. I liked him a lot too. Love playing with him. You know what I'm saying? If you just want to get straight to the point, put a hurt on somebody, Jax was your go-to. That's who you pick. You just want to get straight to the point, man. Gotcha. That's the good thing about it. The old games. Certain characters talked and they had like these moves that they would talk and rating. And it's funny because like as the games progressed, it was just a lot of gibberish to some of the characters were like, the games just kind of got like goofier and goofier as the time went on. And that's when Midway, had a hold of it. During the Midway years, it was just a lot of gibberish and a lot of that's the funny thing. The game was so violent and gory, but sometimes you couldn't take it seriously because all of the screaming and all the gibberish and stuff like that. It was hilarious at times. And of course, they had like unique stages that you would fight on. One of probably the most known stages was the pit. The pit stage, especially on the first one, it was just this long bridge you would fight on. And they had stage fatalities too. So sometimes you can interact with the stage when you finish people. In the pit, you would just knock them off and they fall off the pit into just a pile of spikes. But in the second game, I like is that there were no spikes. You just hitting ground. You knock them off, and then the camera falls all the way down. Just blam, you just land flat on your back. You hit nothing but hard ground on the second game. So that was pretty funny to see. And I'm getting excited about all this violence, but but yeah, man, they had like just unique stages. You had the acid bath. It was a stage pretty much was just a pit full of just acid. You knock them in there, and if you land into a pile of acid, you can guess what happens there. Yeah, it was just cool stages, man. Just a lot of stages you can interact with. And of course, as the game progressed, they added more and more stages you can interact with, and they added like these things called animalities, where characters return into animals and beat the hell out of you. They had these things called babalities, where you turn your opponent into a baby. Brutalities, where you would just do this just ultra combo and stuff like that. So yeah, man. So just throughout the years, the game I got better and better and better and better. I haven't played the latest one in a while because I have it on PlayStation. I gotta fix that. But yeah, I had a great time playing it. And but yeah, man, Mortal Kombat, man, just my favorite fighting game of all time. And there's no doubt in my mind that NetherRealm Studios is going to continue giving us more and more. And if you're a gamer out there and you love fighting games and you don't mind a little bit of blood and gore, Mortal Kombat, that's your go-to game, man. At least for me. Definitely in my top 5 games of all time, man. But yeah, man, Mortal Kombat, and to everyone who was involved and everyone who, strive to keep us entertained and keep us, playing. I just want to say thank you to everybody. I got to give my roses to John Tobias. He was the guy who kind of started it all. Master Daniel Pacenta, that's a man Pacenta, excuse me. Ed Boon and Carlos Pacina and just everybody involved, man. Everybody from the early days, everybody out there, everybody there at NetherRealm who was still going strong with it. So yeah, man, Mortal Kombat, great game, one of my favorites. And until we meet again, safe journey.